Who can forget Billy Carter, Neil Bush, Hugh Rodham, Roger Clinton? Relatives of presidential candidates can, in fact, say the darndest things. And when they get themselves in a pickle, the juice usually splashes on the candidates themselves. Today was Mike Pence's mom making news, saying it's not time for her son to run for president. This after Marco Rubio's wife landed, brace for it, on page 6 in the New York Post after crashing the family SUV into a parked Porsche in Miami. Campbell, in 2016, will the candidates' relatives be off limits or on limits?
They're on. There are no boundaries anymore. You never get a break, especially not in this media environment. You have to go in this with eyes wide open and with the stomach for it. And we've heard a lot of people express concerns about, family being a factor in their decision making about this very thing. But I mean, if you think about the person who is likely to have the most liability issues, it's probably Hillary Clinton and not the Republicans who seem to be fretting over it.
You got to wonder what Hugh Rodham and Tony Rodham and Roger Clinton have been doing since 2008 when Hillary ran. That's going to be scrutinized. But I got to tell you, George Bush successfully put off limits not just his kids, but himself, right? He said, when I was young and irresponsible, It's possible to try to wall off your family. But I'll tell you right now, the hardest thing for a first-time candidate, the Clintons know they got this coming. The hardest thing for somebody like Scott Walker or Ted Cruz or Rand Paul is to say to your staff and your family, all right, not only do I have to tell you everything I've ever done that could come up, but at my parents, my siblings, my kids, I bet you that this is the weakest link in a lot of these campaigns. And if you're right and stuff isn't off limits, one or more of these candidates are going to go down off family stuff more likely than anything else.
I think you can't do the George W. Bush thing. In this current media environment, there are just too many players in the game who weren't there and who don't respect those kind of boundaries.
You can't stop the supermarket tabloids and you can't stop Drudge and some websites, but you can stop the old media, the so-called mainstream media, from doing stuff if you really work it in a disciplined and principled way. And the smart candidates are going to know what they have out there on themselves and their family, but then think of a pushback strategy, an intimidation strategy, which works with kids at least, sometimes with spouses, certainly with parents. Siblings are, in fact, sort of the hardest.
Right.
They're adults, but they're not so close to you that you have the same leverage.
And speaking of kids, Chelsea Clinton, who's never been scrutinized, now part of the campaign is going to,
yeah,
very much so.